Ethan was a regular guy. He worked at a small marketing firm, spent his weekends fixing up his house, and often found himself enjoying the quiet simplicity of suburban life. Nothing ever really changed in his world. He had a few good friends, a decent job, and a nice house with a small garden. He didn't need much more than that. He liked things just the way they were, peaceful and unexciting. That was until the day his life turned upside down. It all started on a lazy Saturday morning. The sun was shining brightly, and the air was fresh as Ethan worked in his garden, tending to the flowers. He was enjoying the calmness when a sharp knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Ethan frowned, wondering who could be visiting him at this hour. His neighbors were friendly, but none of them usually dropped by unannounced. He wiped his hands on his jeans and walked toward the door. As he opened it, his heart skipped a beat. Standing on his doorstep was someone he had never expected, an alien woman. She was tall, elegant, with long silver hair that shimmered in the sunlight. Her skin was a pale shade of blue, and her eyes glowed with a soft golden hue. She wore a simple, flowing white dress that seemed to shimmer in the light, almost as if it were made of stardust. The strange woman held herself with the grace of someone used to command, yet there was a quiet sadness in her expression. For a moment, Ethan stood frozen, unsure if this was real. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and looked again. The woman was still there, smiling gently at him. "Hello," she said, her voice soft but carrying an air of confidence. "I'm Lyra, your neighbor." Ethan's mind raced. His thoughts were a blur, and he struggled to come up with something to say. All he could manage was a hesitant, hi." Lyra's smile widened, though it seemed tinged with sadness. "I apologize for the sudden visit, but I need to speak with you about something important. May I come in?" Ethan's heart was still racing, but his curiosity got the better of him. This was something out of the ordinary, something his quiet life had never prepared him for. He stepped aside, silently inviting her in. Lyra walked into his house, her movements graceful, almost as if she floated. Ethan closed the door behind her, still trying to wrap his mind around the situation. He watched as she took a moment to look around the living room, her golden eyes scanning every detail. "I must admit," she said after a pause, "Earth is quite beautiful. So much potential in this place." Ethan wasn't sure if he should respond. He nodded awkwardly, unsure how to continue the conversation. Lyra turned to face him, her expression serious now. "I know this may be overwhelming, but I need your help, Ethan. It's a matter of great importance, not just for me, but for your planet as well." Ethan blinked. "My help? What do you mean?" She took a deep breath and looked at him, her golden eyes unwavering. "You see, I'm a widow. My husband, a man from another world, passed away recently. His death has left me with a responsibility, one I can't carry alone." Her voice faltered for just a moment before she steadied herself. "And that's where you come in." Ethan couldn't believe what he was hearing. This woman, this alien, was telling him she was a widow and that her husband's death left her with a responsibility. But what could someone like him possibly do for someone like her? "What responsibility?" he asked, his voice shaky. Lyra gave him a soft, understanding smile. "My husband was a part of a peacekeeping force, a group dedicated to maintaining harmony across the stars. When he passed, his work didn't end. Now it's my turn to finish what he started." Ethan was even more confused. "Wait, you're saying you're some kind of space diplomat?" He almost chuckled at the thought, but Lyra's serious expression stopped him. "In a way, yes," she replied calmly. "But this isn't just about diplomacy. It's about something much larger, something that could affect the future of your planet." Ethan felt his mind spinning. The idea of intergalactic peacekeepers, distant stars, and alien diplomacy felt like something out of a movie, not something that could possibly involve him. Lyra continued, "I've been tasked with negotiating a treaty that could affect the future of Earth, but it's a delicate matter. There are factions in the galaxy that don't want this peace. They are powerful, and they will stop at nothing to prevent it. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. And you want me to help you with this? But I'm just a normal guy. I don't know anything about whatever it is you're talking about. Lyra nodded. I understand your hesitation, but that's exactly why I need you. You see, humans possess something unique, something the other species in the galaxy lack. Your empathy, your ability to understand and connect with others. It's a quality that's rare among the beings I deal with, and that's why you're perfect for this mission. Ethan's head was spinning. He was no diplomat. He was just a man who liked his quiet life. But this woman, this alien, was asking for his help with something that could change everything. You don't have to make any decisions right now, Lyra said, sensing his uncertainty. But I will need you. Soon. You have a role to play in all of this, whether you realize it or not. Ethan glanced at her, still struggling to comprehend what she was saying. She was asking him to get involved in some intergalactic mission. And while it sounded impossible, a part of him couldn't help but feel intrigued. Lyra's eyes softened as she watched him. I understand this is a lot to take in, but sometimes, life has a way of presenting us with opportunities we never expected. I'm offering you a chance to be part of something much bigger than anything you've ever known. The question is, will you take it? Ethan stood there, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He had always lived his life quietly, without seeking adventure or excitement. But now, this alien widow, who he barely knew, was offering him something he never could have imagined. A chance to play a role in the fate of the galaxy. As Lyra waited for his response, Ethan knew that whatever decision he made, his life would never be the same. Ethan sat quietly on his couch, trying to wrap his mind around everything that had just happened. The strange alien woman, Lyra, was sitting across from him, her presence calming but also overwhelming. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The idea that he, a regular man living in a suburban neighborhood, could have any role in something as big as intergalactic diplomacy was impossible to comprehend. Lyra sat still, her golden eyes watching him closely, waiting for his response. Ethan stared at her for a long moment, trying to process her words. She had mentioned a treaty, a galactic peacekeeping mission, and the fate of Earth itself. But none of that seemed real to him. How could he, someone who had never even left Earth, help with something so important? Ethan, Lyra said gently, breaking the silence. I know this is a lot to take in, but I need you to understand the gravity of the situation. The treaty we're negotiating is not just about peace between species. It's about ensuring that Earth remains safe. Without this treaty, Earth could be caught in the crossfire of a galactic war. Ethan's stomach twisted. A war? You're saying that other alien species want to fight? Lyra nodded. Yes, there are factions that do not want peace. They believe in domination and conquest. If they succeed in preventing this treaty, Earth will be at the mercy of their ambitions. You see, your planet is strategically important. Many of the galactic factions see Earth as a valuable prize. If they take control, it could lead to endless conflict. Ethan felt a knot form in his chest. He had always seen Earth as a peaceful planet, an ordinary place far from the struggles of the wider galaxy. But now, Lyra was telling him that Earth was at risk. The thought was almost too much to bear. How could he, just one man, stop an entire war from reaching Earth? Lyra seemed to sense his fear. She leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. That's why I need you, Ethan. You are not just anyone. Humans have something that no other species in the galaxy possesses. Your unique perspective, your resilience, your ability to connect with others. Those traits make you the perfect candidate for this mission. Ethan swallowed hard. But I don't know anything about alien politics. I don't know how to negotiate a treaty or deal with galactic factions. You don't need to, Lyra replied calmly. I will guide you. You will learn. You don't have to be an expert to understand the heart of the issue. What I need from you is your willingness to help and your ability to understand the stakes. That's what makes you invaluable to this mission. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. He was still unsure whether to believe everything Lyra was telling him. It sounded like something out of a science fiction novel, not something that could happen in real life. But the sincerity in her voice was hard to ignore. She wasn't just asking for his help, she was counting on it. But why me? Ethan asked. Why not someone who actually knows about this stuff, someone who has experience with alien cultures or diplomacy? Lyra paused for a moment, her eyes softening. Because you are human, Ethan. That's what makes you special. The other galactic species are highly advanced, but they lack the emotional intelligence that humans have. You can relate to others in a way they cannot. That's why I need you. This mission isn't just about winning a treaty. It's about understanding the hearts and minds of the beings involved. And that's something only you can do. Ethan felt a strange sense of responsibility wash over him. The idea that his ability to empathize with others could help save the world seemed too big to believe. He was just an ordinary guy. He had no special training, no experience with alien species, and no understanding of galactic politics. Yet, Lyra was looking at him as though he was the key to something monumental. I still don't understand, Ethan admitted, his voice shaky. How could my feelings, my empathy make such a big difference? Lyra's eyes glowed softly as she explained. There is something you need to understand about the galaxy. The factions we will be negotiating with are not all alike. Some of them value logic and power, while others value emotion and relationships. The key to this treaty is finding common ground, showing them that peace is better than war. But that can only happen if they trust us. If they see that we are capable of understanding them as individuals, not just political entities. And that is something only a human can do. Ethan was silent for a moment, processing her words. Could he really do this? Could he really make a difference in something so important? He wasn't sure, but part of him felt a pull, an undeniable sense that this was his chance to be part of something bigger than himself. I still don't know if I'm the right person for this, Ethan said, his voice full of doubt. What if I fail? What if I mess everything up? Lyra reached across the table, placing her hand gently on his. You won't fail, Ethan. You have something that no one else has, the ability to connect, to empathize. That's why I came to you. I know this is a huge responsibility, but I believe in you. Her words were filled with such conviction that Ethan couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. Maybe this was his chance to do something that mattered. Maybe this was his opportunity to be more than just the man next door. Okay, he said, finally, his voice steadying. I'll do it, I'll help you. Lyra's face lit up with a smile that took Ethan's breath away. Thank you, Ethan. You won't regret it. You'll learn more than you ever thought possible. She stood up and walked toward the window, her eyes scanning the horizon. There is much to prepare. The treaty negotiations will take us to places you can't even imagine. And the people we'll meet, well, they will challenge everything you know, but you'll grow. You'll see things in a way that no one on Earth ever has. Ethan stood up too, his mind racing with the weight of his decision. He had just agreed to embark on an adventure he never thought was possible, but part of him was excited. This was it, the moment his life would change forever. No longer would he be just another man living in a quiet neighborhood. He was about to step into a world of danger, mystery, and diplomacy beyond his wildest dreams. Lyra turned to face him, her expression serious again. One more thing, Ethan. This mission won't be easy. We will face opposition, both from within the galaxy and from Earth itself. But I promise you, if you stay true to your heart, you'll make a difference. Ethan nodded, his resolve growing stronger. I'll do whatever it takes. Lyra's golden eyes sparkled. I knew you would. Let's begin. As Lyra led him toward the spaceship that would take them to the stars, Ethan realized something. His life would never be the same again, and in that moment, he knew he had made the right choice. Ethan stood on the small launch pad behind his house, staring up at the sleek silver spaceship that would carry him away from everything he knew. The ship stood tall and silent, gleaming under the bright sunlight. It looked nothing like the airplanes or shuttles he had seen in movies. This was something far beyond anything his imagination could have dreamed up. Lyra stood beside him, Her golden eyes shining with a mixture of pride and anticipation. Her calm, confident presence seemed to make the enormous spaceship seem a little less intimidating. She turned to him, her voice gentle but firm. "Are you ready?" she asked, her gaze soft but steady. Ethan swallowed. "I think so," he said, though the truth was he wasn't sure about anything. The idea of leaving Earth, of traveling into the unknown, felt overwhelming. But the promise of something bigger, something beyond his quiet life, kept him moving forward. "Good," Lyra said with a small smile. "This is just the beginning. You'll see things that will change the way you view the universe, Ethan, and I'll be there to guide you every step of the way." With that, they boarded the ship. The inside was just as impressive as the outside, sleek, futuristic, and unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. The walls were made of smooth metallic surfaces that seemed to pulse with a faint, soft light. The controls were arranged in a way that looked completely foreign to him, with buttons, screens, and switches he had no idea how to use. Lyra led him to a small seat near the cockpit, where she motioned for him to sit. She then took her place at the controls, effortlessly commanding the ship to life. The hum of the engine started, soft at first, then growing steadily louder until Ethan felt the entire ship vibrate beneath him. "This is incredible," Ethan whispered, his heart racing. Lyra smiled at him, her eyes glinting with the thrill of the moment. "It is. You're about to travel across the stars, Ethan. Welcome to the galaxy." As the ship lifted off, leaving Earth behind, Ethan's stomach flipped. He watched the planet shrink smaller and smaller through the window, until it was just a tiny dot in the vastness of space. It felt surreal. He was actually leaving everything he knew, everything that had once seemed so safe and secure, to venture into the unknown. His old life seemed so far away now, as if it belonged to someone else. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked, trying to focus on the new journey ahead. Lyra glanced at him, her voice steady. "We are heading to a space station called Nexus 9. It's a hub for intergalactic diplomacy. There we'll meet representatives from other species, all of whom have a stake in the treaty negotiations. It's where the fate of the galaxy will be decided." Ethan nodded, absorbing the information, though it felt overwhelming. He had never imagined anything like this. His mind raced with questions. What would the other species be like? How would he fit in? And most importantly, could he actually help make a difference? As the ship zoomed through the stars, Lyra explained more about the treaty. She told him that it had been in the works for years, a delicate agreement meant to prevent conflict and ensure peace between the most powerful factions in the galaxy. But not everyone was happy about it. Some factions had their own ambitions and didn't want to share power. They saw the treaty as a threat, not an opportunity. "The galaxy is full of different species with different goals," Lyra said. "Some seek peace, others seek power, and it's those differences that make diplomacy so complicated. But your role is simple. You're here to help bridge those gaps. Your ability to connect with others, to empathize with their struggles, will be the key." Ethan listened intently, trying to wrap his head around the enormity of it all. He had always thought of himself as a good listener, someone who could understand people's feelings. But could that really be enough to help negotiate peace between alien species? The thought was both exciting and terrifying. Hours passed as the ship sped through space. Ethan tried to sleep, but his mind was too busy. He thought about his old life on Earth, his quiet home, his simple routine. How would he ever adjust to a life filled with alien cultures and intergalactic politics? He had no training, no experience, and no idea what to expect. But something in him stirred, a sense of purpose, a feeling that this was the opportunity he had been waiting for, even if he didn't fully understand it yet. Eventually, the ship arrived at Nexus 9. The space station was enormous, a bustling hub floating in the middle of a nebula. It was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Twisted, geometric structures and ships of every shape and size hovered around the station, docking and leaving with a quiet hum. As they approached, Ethan's eyes widened in awe. "This place is incredible," he said softly. Lyra nodded, her face serious now. It is. But it's also a place of great danger. There are factions here that would do anything to stop the treaty. Some will try to bribe you, others will try to intimidate you. But you must stay true to yourself, Ethan. Do not let their games distract you from the bigger picture. Ethan looked at her, his heart pounding. I'm not sure I can handle all of this, he admitted. What if I fail? What if I make a mistake? Lyra's gaze softened as she placed a hand on his shoulder. You will make mistakes. We all do. But what matters is that you learn from them. And remember, you're not alone. I'm here with you, and you have the strength within you to make a difference. The ship docked with the station, and the door slid open. Ethan stepped out, his feet touching the solid ground of Nexus 9. The air was different here, thick with the scent of strange technologies and alien life forms. He could hear the hum of distant voices, a mixture of languages and sounds he didn't understand. Lyra led him through the corridors, passing by strange creatures and advanced technology. They entered a large chamber where representatives from different factions were already gathering. There were beings of all shapes and sizes, tall and short, humanoid and not. The diversity was staggering. This is it, Lyra said quietly. The negotiations will begin soon. You'll need to speak with the representatives, listen to their concerns, and find a way to help them see the value in peace. Ethan felt a knot in his stomach. He wasn't sure how he was going to do this. How was he supposed to speak with all these powerful beings and convince them to agree to something as important as peace? But as he looked around at the diverse faces of the alien representatives, something inside him shifted. These beings, with their different lives, different cultures, and different perspectives, weren't all that different from the people he had met on Earth. They had fears, hopes, dreams, and struggles. Just like anyone else. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a spark of determination. He wasn't sure how he was going to do it, but he knew one thing for certain. He was going to try, and he was going to do everything he could to make sure peace was achieved, not just for Earth, but for everyone. Lyra gave him a reassuring smile. You're ready, she said. Trust yourself. Ethan nodded, stepping forward into the unknown. He was no longer just a man from Earth. He was part of something much bigger, something that would change the course of history. Ethan stood in the center of the vast chamber, the hum of quiet conversations filling the air. All around him, alien representatives from different factions gathered in groups, exchanging words in languages he couldn't understand. Their voices were a mix of sharp clicks, melodic tones, and deep growls. For a moment, he felt small, out of place. This wasn't the quiet life of suburban Earth he was used to. But despite the overwhelming sight of these powerful beings, something deep inside him told him to stay focused. Lyra stood beside him, her presence like an anchor in the sea of chaos. She had been guiding him through the negotiations, teaching him how to listen, how to speak, how to connect with beings whose cultures were so different from his own. He had learned quickly that the key to the treaty was finding common ground. But even as he spoke with the representatives, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this mission than he was being told. Lyra, Ethan whispered, leaning in close. I can't help but feel like there's something I'm missing. Something important. Lyra glanced around the room, her golden eyes scanning the various factions. She didn't seem surprised by his words. There is something, she said quietly, something that even I didn't know until recently. It's been hidden from all of us. Ethan's heart raced. What do you mean? The treaty, she began, her voice low, is not just about peace. It's also about stopping something, much darker, something ancient. The factions don't know it, but there is a threat lurking in the shadows, a threat that could destroy everything. Ethan frowned. What kind of threat? Is it from another faction? Lyra shook her head. No, it's something far older. My husband, before his death, was part of a covert group tasked with keeping this secret. They found something powerful that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. But they kept it hidden. And now, that secret is on the verge of being uncovered. Ethan's mind whirled. What does this have to do with the treaty? Lyra's expression darkened. The treaty was supposed to secure peace and keep the galaxy united against the real enemy. But some of the factions involved in these talks are aware of the secret. They want to use it for their own gain. If they get their hands on it, the galaxy will be plunged into chaos. Ethan felt the weight of her words settle in. He had come to Nexus 9 believing he was here to help make peace between alien species, but now it seemed like he was caught in the middle of something far more dangerous. You're saying that some of these factions want to use the secret to start a war? Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra nodded. Yes, and worse, they want to destroy everything that stands in their way. They'll use any means necessary to get what they want. Ethan glanced around the room again, his mind racing. The representatives standing in clusters around the chamber seemed calm, professional. How could any of them be hiding such dangerous intentions? How could he possibly know who to trust? You can't do this alone, Ethan, Lyra said, her voice steady but filled with concern. You're going to have to choose your allies carefully. Some of these people will pretend to help, but they're not what they seem. Ethan nodded, feeling more uncertain than ever. He had never imagined that his simple decision to help Lyra would lead him into the middle of a galactic conspiracy. But now, he realized, there was no turning back. Lyra, Ethan said, his voice firm. We need to stop this. We need to make sure that secret never falls into the wrong hands. Lyra met his gaze, her eyes full of determination. I agree, but we need more than just words. We need to find the right information, the right people before it's too late. They spent the next few hours speaking with various representatives, trying to gather information. Some were cooperative, some were secretive, and some were outright hostile. Ethan found himself growing more and more disillusioned with the whole process. It seemed like everyone had their own agenda. Some factions wanted the treaty, others wanted war. Some were indifferent to Earth's fate, while others saw Earth as a pawn in a much larger game. Ethan's head was spinning by the time they took a break. He and Lyra sat in a quiet corner of the station away from the bustling crowds. I don't know who to trust anymore, Ethan admitted, his voice heavy with frustration. Everyone's playing their own game. How can I tell who's on our side? Lyra gave him a reassuring look. It's not easy, I know, but remember what we're fighting for. This is bigger than any one faction, any one person. This is about the future of the galaxy, and we have to be the ones to stop it. Ethan nodded, his determination growing. He wasn't just going to let the galaxy fall apart. He couldn't. Lyra, Ethan said suddenly, what if we're looking at this all wrong? What if the treaty is just a distraction? What if the real power lies somewhere else? Lyra's eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't considered this possibility. What do you mean? Think about it, Ethan said, his voice gaining strength. The treaty talks, the negotiations, the factions, everything seems so complicated. What if the treaty is just a cover for something else? Something that's being hidden right under our noses? Lyra's face hardened as the pieces began to fall into place. You're right. The treaty is the distraction. The real objective was never peace. It was control. Someone wants to control the galaxy, and they're using the treaty as a smokescreen to manipulate everyone. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. But who? Who's behind all of this? I don't know yet, Lyra said, her voice filled with quiet urgency. But I have a feeling we're not going to like what we find. Ethan and Lyra continued to search for clues, moving through Nexus 9's crowded halls, speaking to more representatives trying to uncover the truth. The deeper they dug, the more they realized how deep the conspiracy ran. It wasn't just the factions who wanted control. It was the people in power, the ones who had been pulling the strings all along, and they would stop at nothing to keep their secret safe. The next day, Lyra pulled Ethan aside. I've learned something, she said quietly, her voice tense. We need to leave Nexus 9. It's not safe here anymore. Ethan felt a knot form in his stomach. Why? What's going on? The factions are closing in. They know we're onto them. If we stay here, we won't make it out alive. The next phase of the negotiation begins soon, and if we don't act fast, the secret will be exposed. Ethan nodded, his resolve solidifying. He had already made the decision he wasn't going to let the galaxy fall apart, and he wasn't going to let Lyra down. We leave tonight, he said firmly. Lyra smiled, a rare moment of warmth in her eyes. I knew I could count on you, Ethan. As they made their way through the station's labyrinthine corridors, Ethan couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands, and time was running out. The corridors of Nexus 9 felt more oppressive with each passing minute. The noise of the crowds faded into the background, replaced by the echo of Ethan's own heartbeat in his chest. Lyra led the way, her stride confident, but even she seemed more tense than usual. The space station had never felt more like a labyrinth, the walls closing in around them as the seconds ticked by. We need to get to the extraction point, Lyra said in a low voice, her eyes scanning the crowd ahead of them. If we're going to leave without drawing attention, we'll need to be fast. Ethan nodded, his thoughts swirling. He had always thought of himself as an ordinary guy, but now he was caught in a web of intergalactic politics, ancient secrets, and a dangerous conspiracy that could destroy everything. His whole life had changed in just a few days. He could still remember the quiet, predictable world he had left behind. The world where the biggest concern was what to have for dinner, or whether to mow the lawn. Now, every decision felt like it could make or break the future of the galaxy. As they moved through the station, Ethan couldn't help but wonder who they could trust. The factions had been playing games with each other, using diplomacy as a cover for their own ambitions. Some had wanted peace, some wanted war, and some, as they had discovered, had been working in the shadows to control the galaxy. And yet, the true enemy remained hidden. Lyra had spoken of an ancient power, a secret that could tip the balance of the entire galaxy. The factions, even the ones working for peace, were unaware of the danger looming over them. It was as if the galaxy's fate was hanging by a single thread, and the only way to save it was to uncover the truth and stop those who were trying to use the secret for their own gain. As they neared the extraction point, Lyra suddenly stopped, her hand on Ethan's arm. "Wait," she whispered, her eyes narrowing. "Something's wrong." Ethan tensed, his heart skipping a beat. He turned to look at her, but before he could speak, a loud noise echoed through the corridor, followed by shouts and the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching quickly. Lyra's eyes widened as she looked toward the entrance to the hallway. "They've found us," she muttered. "We don't have much time." Ethan's mind raced. He had no training for this. He wasn't a soldier, and he certainly wasn't prepared to face the kind of danger that had just appeared. But as Lyra grabbed his arm and pulled him toward an emergency exit, a sudden resolve settled in. He had come this far. He wasn't going to back down now. "We have to get out of here," Lyra said, her voice urgent. "The treaty is just a cover. We have to stop them before it's too late." They reached the exit, a small door at the end of the hallway, and Lyra quickly input a code. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and they slipped inside just as the footsteps grew louder. Ethan's pulse raced. He had no idea what was coming, but it was clear that whoever was after them would stop at nothing to prevent them from exposing the truth. Lyra led him through a narrow tunnel, her movements swift and practiced. Ethan followed closely, doing his best to keep up. The walls of the tunnel were cold and metallic, the dim light flickering above them. The sounds of the station faded behind them, replaced by the steady rhythm of their hurried footsteps. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked, trying to catch his breath. "To the hangar," Lyra replied without looking back. "We have a ship there that can get us out of here, but we need to hurry." They moved faster now, the urgency of the situation pushing them both forward. Ethan's mind raced. He had never been a part of something so dangerous, so important. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized how much was at stake. The peace of the galaxy, the future of Earth, depended on their success. And if they failed? Well, Ethan wasn't sure he wanted to think about what would happen if they failed. The tunnel eventually opened up into a large hangar, where several ships were docked. Lyra's ship, a sleek and powerful vessel, was stationed at the far end. She hurried toward it, her steps quick and decisive. Ethan followed, his heart still pounding in his chest. As they reached the ship, Lyra turned to him. "Get in, I'll take care of the controls." Ethan hesitated for a moment. "But how do you know how to fly this thing? What if—" "I'll handle it," Lyra said, cutting him off. "Trust me." Without another word, she climbed into the cockpit and Ethan followed her inside. The ship was far more advanced than anything he had ever seen. The controls were complex, but Lyra seemed to move with ease, her fingers dancing over the panels with a familiarity that left Ethan in awe. As the engines hummed to life, Lyra glanced at him, her face serious. "Once we leave, there's no going back. We'll be hunted. There are those who don't want the truth to come out." Ethan nodded, his resolve solidifying. He had already made the choice. He couldn't walk away now. "Then let's go," he said. The ship lifted off the ground, shooting out of the hangar with surprising speed. As they soared into space, Ethan looked out the window and watched Nexus 9 shrink behind them. The station, once a bustling center of diplomacy, was now just another distant memory. They had left it behind, but the danger was far from over. Lyra set the ship on a course toward a hidden location, far away from the factions and their politics. As the stars streaked by, Ethan felt a sense of unease settle in. They had barely escaped Nexus 9, and now they were headed into the unknown. But despite the uncertainty, there was a part of him that felt oddly at peace. "I know you have questions," Lyra said after a long silence, "but we need to stay focused. We're not safe yet." Ethan turned to her. "What happens next?" "We need to find the source of the secret," Lyra explained, her voice steady. "The treaty was just a distraction. The real threat is a force so powerful it could destroy everything. We have to stop them before they use it to take control of the galaxy." Ethan sat back, trying to process everything. He had gone from a quiet life on Earth to fighting for the fate of the galaxy, and while it felt impossible, a small part of him felt like this was exactly where he was supposed to be. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. "We'll find the answers. Together." As the ship sped through the stars, Ethan knew that his life would never be the same. The choice had been made, and now they were on a path that would lead them to the heart of the galaxy's darkest secrets. He didn't know where this journey would take him, but one thing was clear. He wasn't going to back down. Not now. Not ever.